What's going on, guys? My name is Victor and I'm back today with an edit tutorial on Adobe Lightroom on how I get this dark and moody urban look in this photo. So I'll show you what the photo started out as. Yep. So basically what we're going to be doing to this photo is darkening all the blacks. So that means we might be lowering the shadows, we might be lowering the blacks, but basically if you see between the before and after, like over here, it gets drastically darker. And then one of the colors that we're going to be going with is like this bluish green look, and then the other color is going to be like this yellowy green look, and these contrast each other very well, as you can see right here. So let's go ahead and edit this one right here. First thing that I normally start with is just this first tab, and I work my way down. So the exposure, the contrast, etc. But we're going to be making this a dark photo anyway, so I'm probably not going to mess with the exposure at all to start. And what I'm a big fan of, and I think looks really good for this dark and moody look, is to bump up the contrast. And this photo is already pretty dark because it was an overcast day in New York City, and I have an ND filter on, I have a Black Pro mist filter on, and a circular polarizer. So that's why you see a lot of this vignetting here at the top. But so this is already a very dark photo. So that is going to work on our side for this, because there are some photos that are shot so bright that I can't achieve this kind of look on. So this is going to help us out. So let's go ahead and bump up that contrast till we get something we like. And you can already see it's looking pretty moody as is. And so this kind of helps, like when you take a photo, you have to kind of think what style is going to look best with this. And that's why I think New York accomplishes this look a lot, is because it's already so dark and moody there most of the time. So this already looks pretty good, and then we'll play with the highlights. And since we want some contrast, I'm gonna bump up the highlights just a little bit. So now we got some really bright highlights, and then we've got some dark shadows. And then shadows, it is looking kind of dark up here, but there is also that vignetting. So before I adjust the shadows, I'm going to change the crop. So if you're going to post this on Instagram, you got the 4x5, 8x10 right here, and that will just fix that right up. So I'll just straighten this out a little bit till that pyramid is parallel with the cropping, and that looks about right. All right. So now that we got that taken care of, we know what parts of the photo we're actually going to be adjusting. So I know I'm gonna be lowering the blacks eventually, so I might wanna boost the shadows up a little bit so a little more detail comes back. So we'll just go somewhere around 15. And then the whites, I normally never adjust, so I'm gonna leave the whites right there. And then let's lower the blacks. But we also don't want to lose information, because if we darken it all the way, then you're not going to be able to see anything. So I'm going to go right about here, -32, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I know you can turn on the clipping, but I really don't like doing that. I like to see what I think looks good and then go with that. There's a lot going on in this photo, so I'm going to bump up the clarity just a little bit and see what that looks like. I almost never lower clarity unless it's maybe a portrait of someone, and so we just kind of soften up the face a little bit. So let's bump up the clarity, and you can see it gets like really intense at 100. So we're just gonna find that sweet spot, and I think we're gonna go with 20. And you can flip back and forth on the keyboard by using the backslash button, and we can see the before and after. And I like doing that every now and then just to make sure I'm accomplishing the look that I want. Now that I've taken care of that, we're gonna go down to the tone curve. We've got the RGB tone curve. I normally don't adjust the other tone curves, but I basically make those 3 points right here. The way you can remember this, if you don't know already, is this is going to be adjusting your shadows, your midtones, and then your highlights. So I like to lower this, and we're just gonna make a simple S curve. So lower this just a little bit. And if you want that faded image look, you can raise this up so it fades out the blacks, but I'm not gonna do that. And then raise up the highlights just a little bit. And so this is too black for me, so I'm going to either boost the shadows, I'm gonna boost the shadows just a little bit and lower the blacks. Okay, So now we do it back and forth, and then you can toggle this on and off too to see the difference and see if you like it. So now we're on our HSL sliders. So I'll lower the hue of blue a tad, and then bump up the luminance because this is a dark photo, so we want that color contrast still. So boost that to 90. And then what else? What other kind of colors are in here? You can play with the taxi cab color too, but I mean, I kind of like this already. I feel like that matches pretty well. So I'm not gonna do any more for now on the HSL sliders, but we're going to go down to the split toning. And I don't always go with the split toning, but I do try it out just to see if I'll like the look. And I tend to try and do the highlights of an orange or yellow color and then the shadows of a tealish blue color. So we're just going to play with that. And this photo especially is looking really good for this look. So just kind of play around till you get that color that you like, and then go to your shadows. I'm gonna go with a blue here, but most of this image is shadows, so it's heavily affected if you keep it at 13% as with the highlights. So lower that down. All right, so I think I'm at 3%. We'll call that good. You can toggle that on and off and see what it did. So right there, you can see it turned that pyramid into a golden color, and kind of, it just really made the image itself look way more cinematic because there's just a lot more color contrast going on here. It's kind of like this blue, yellow, green color. All right, you can enable profile corrections, but that tends to brighten up your image. And I actually kind of like how this looks after I do the enable profile corrections, and it did it for my 24-70 f2.8 Canon lens. So now we are on to our vignette. And so I like to move it all the way to 100 just so I can see the borders, and then adjust the midpoint and roundness and feather to my liking, and then lower it back down to something that's not so ugly. -15, then you can toggle that on and off once again and see what you did to the image, and go back and forth between the before and after. But basically that is how I achieve that dark and moody look. And once again, I think it really helps if you have a photo that already kind of looks dark and moody, because if it's a bright sunny day out, it's going to be really hard to achieve a look like this. I feel like this comes best when you're on an overcast day, you've got a lot of shadows to play with, and there's just mood in the scenery as is. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it and you learned something. If you did, leave a thumbs up, comment what you thought down below, and then subscribe if you want to see more edit tutorials like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one.